What if your peaceful neighborhood was hiding secrets? I thought Karen, the HOA president, was the problem. But she was just the surface. Behind her lies a machine controlling everyone, even the law. I uncovered hidden files, secret agreements, and bribed neighbors, and now they know I've seen too much. This is my story of fear, deception, and the fight to expose the truth. I had barely settled into my cabin when it started. A pounding, not a knock. A violent, demanding pounding on the door. I froze. No one knew I was here, no neighbors, no friends, no family, just me. And yet, that pounding, it grew louder. I looked out through the curtain. There she was, Karen, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, clipboard in one hand, phone in the other, and that look, the look that said she owned everything she saw. She shouted through the door, "Greater than open up! This property is subject to HOA inspection!" Her voice was sharp, arrogant, like a command, not a request. But this cabin, it wasn't even part of the HOA. It never had been. She knew it, but she didn't care. I stayed silent, but Karen didn't wait. She rattled the handle, banged harder, and then the lock gave way. The door burst open. She stormed inside as if she owned the place, clipboard raised, eyes scanning, mouth already moving. Greater than illegal modifications, unauthorized furniture. This will be reported. She snapped pictures, flash after flash, like she was collecting evidence for a crime that didn't exist. But she wasn't prepared, because I wasn't alone. On the coffee table, glowing bright, was my phone. And on that phone, a live call. The state attorney general's office. I had dialed them just before she arrived. Weeks of harassment had pushed me to this point. And now, Karen had walked right into her own trap. She stopped when she noticed the phone. Her eyes narrowed. "Greater than, who are you talking to?" she demanded. I met her stare, calm, cold. "Greater than the Attorney General," I said. For a moment, just a flicker, her confidence cracked. Her face drained. But then she laughed. "Greater than, they won't help you. The HOA is untouchable." I pressed a button. Speaker mode. A firm voice filled the cabin. "Actually, ma'am, that's not true." Karen froze. Her eyes darted to the phone, then back to me, then the phone again. For the first time. She looked afraid. The door swung wide open. Karen didn't hesitate. She stepped in like she owned the air I was breathing. Her shoes clacked against the wooden floor. Her perfume lingered sharp and artificial, and her voice, already rising. "Greater than, this entire property is in violation. You've ignored repeated warnings. That ends today," clipboard in her hand, phone camera flashing. She moved fast, like a predator circling prey. I didn't move. I just watched. Her eyes darted around. Walls, furniture, kitchen counter. Every corner was scanned, judged, condemned in silence. She muttered as she scribbled, words like infraction and fine. Her pen carved anger into the paper. But she hadn't noticed the glow of the phone yet. Not until her voice boomed again. "Greater than unregistered property modifications, unauthorized occupancy, immediate penalties apply." Then, her eyes landed on the coffee table, on the phone, the glowing screen. Her words faltered. What is that?" she asked. I didn't flinch. "A call," I said slowly. "With the Attorney General's office." Silence. For the first time since she entered, she stopped moving. Her head tilted, her lips pressed tight. The clipboard lowered just a little. Then, her laugh cut through the room. Harsh, mocking, greater than, "Do you think they care? About you? About this cabin? The HOA makes the rules here, not them." But the voice on the phone broke her arrogance. "Ma'am," the Attorney General's staffer said firmly, You've just committed unlawful entry. This residence is not under HOA authority. Karen froze. Her fingers twitched. Her eyes widened. Her chest rose and fell fast. The phone had become a spotlight, and she was caught in it. I watched her carefully, because I knew Karen. She wouldn't back down. Not yet. And I was right. She straightened her back, tightened her grip on the clipboard, and forced a smile. "You're bluffing," she hissed. "The HOA always wins." Karen's smile was thin, sharp, the kind of smile predators wear before they strike. Her eyes didn't leave the glowing phone, but her voice rose again. "Unlawful entry? Don't be ridiculous. This property is under HOA oversight. I have the right. I have the authority." She said it loud, as if volume could rewrite the law. The voice on the phone didn't shake. It didn't rise. It didn't even sound angry. Just calm, steady, professional. "Ma'am, your association has no jurisdiction over this property. You have trespassed. Identify yourself immediately." Karen's jaw tightened. Her fingers clenched around the clipboard. Her pen nearly snapped, but she refused to give her name. "Greater than I don't answer to you," she spat. "This neighborhood answers to me." Silence stretched. I could hear the faint sound of typing on the other end of the line. The Attorney General's staff was documenting everything. Every word, every second. Karen didn't realize she had already trapped herself. She tried to move closer to the phone. I stepped in her path. Her eyes flicked up at me. Sharp. Dangerous. For a heartbeat, I thought she might swing that clipboard like a weapon. But then, she leaned sideways. Her voice loud, dripping with false confidence. "Greater than, this is harassment, recording me without consent. You'll regret this." The AG's voice came again. "Greater than no, ma'am. What you're doing right now is harassment, and it's being documented under state law." Karen froze. Her lips trembled. Her shoulders stiffened. That arrogance, the shield she always carried, was cracking. But then she moved. Fast. She lunged toward the coffee table, toward the phone. I blocked her again. Her voice screeched. "You don't understand. If they see those files—" She stopped herself. Too late. The AG's tone sharpened. "Greater than what files?" Karen's face went pale. Her eyes darted to the clipboard pressed against her chest, the one she wouldn't let go of, and in that instant, I knew. She wasn't just here to intimidate me, she was hiding something. Her laugh returned, forced and broken. "Greater than nothing, just HOA records, standard inspections," but the way she clutched that clipboard, white knuckles, shaking hands, breathing hard, it was more than standard, much more. The AG spoke again, calm but firm. "Greater than, sir, do not allow her to leave. Law enforcement is being notified. Keep her in sight." Karen heard it too. Her mask slipped further. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. But fear makes people dangerous. And Karen wasn't done yet. Karen's breathing grew louder, sharper, almost frantic. She wasn't the same calm, smug woman who had barged in minutes earlier. Now she was cornered, and she knew it. She tried to smile again, but her lips twitched. Her voice cracked. "Greater than law enforcement? Please, they won't waste their time with this. The HOA is the law here. I am the law here." Her words echoed, too loud, too desperate. The AG's voice cut through her lies. "Greater than no, you are not the law. And you have no authority in this cabin. Your actions are criminal." Karen's face flushed red. Her chest rose and fell too fast. But instead of backing down, she doubled down. She raised the clipboard like it was a shield. "Greater than, you think you're clever, but you don't know what I have. what I've collected, what I've seen. Her voice lowered, a hiss. One word from me, and the entire neighborhood burns. My stomach twisted. She wasn't bluffing. The way she clutched that clipboard, like it was life itself, like it was her power. The AG's tone sharpened. Greater than ma'am. Hand over the documents. Now Karen laughed, harsh, bitter. You'll have to rip them from me. Then she backed toward the door, fast. I moved to block her again. She froze. Her eyes darted from me, to the door, to the phone still glowing on the table. Her voice trembled. Greater than, you don't get it. If these files go public, it's not just me at risk. Everyone, every resident, every secret. The AG's voice carried weight. Greater than, sir, describe what you see. What is she holding? I spoke clearly. Greater than clipboard. Thick stack of papers. Looks like files. She won't let them go. Karen's face twisted with rage. Greater than, shut up. She screamed it so loud my ears rang. Then she slammed the clipboard tight against her chest, as if squeezing it could erase the truth inside. The AG didn't flinch. Greater than, sir, stay calm. Officers are en route. Keep her where she is, Karen snapped. Her eyes widened, her breathing hitched, and then she lunged again, straight at the phone. This time, I caught her arm. Her scream echoed through the cabin. Greater than, give it to me, you don't understand what's at stake. The AG's voice boomed. Ma'am! Stop resisting. Every word you say is being recorded. Karen froze in my grip. Her eyes flicked to the phone. Her mouth opened, then closed. For a second, the cabin was silent. Only the sound of our breathing filled the air. Then, she whispered, so low I almost missed it. Greater than, if they see this, it's over for all of us. Her words sent a chill through me. Not just her, not just the HOA, but all of us. What was she hiding? What was in those files? The AG's voice came steady. Greater than, sir, do not engage physically unless necessary. Keep her in sight. Document everything. Help is almost there. But Karen wasn't finished. Her eyes burned with something darker. She looked at me like I was the enemy, not just someone standing in her way. Her voice dropped again. Greater than, you don't belong here. None of you do. This neighborhood was built on rules, and I'm the one who keeps them. She lifted her chin. Greater than, without me, it all falls apart. I stared at her. Clipboard pressed so tight against her chest I thought she'd crush it. Eyes wide, sweat dripping, and I realized this wasn't just power. This was obsession, and obsession makes people dangerous. Karen's voice trembled now, but it wasn't fear of me. It was fear of what she carried. She hugged that clipboard tighter, nails digging into the wood. Her whisper broke the silence. If these files get out, people will know about the votes, the money, the agreements. She stopped, realized she had said too much. Her eyes darted toward me, filled with panic. The AG's voice snapped through the speaker. Greater than, sir, confirm what she just said. Did she mention votes and money? I answered quickly. Greater than, yes, votes, money, and something about agreements. Karen's face drained of color. She stepped back. One step, another. Her hand reached behind her, searching for the doorknob. The AG's voice hardened. Ma'am, do not attempt to leave. This is an official order. Officers are approaching now. Karen shook her head violently. No, you don't get it. If they see what's in here, if they connect the names, there won't just be fines. There will be trials, arrests, and not just me. Her voice cracked. Greater than everyone who signed, everyone who paid. I stared at her, stunned. The woman who had spent years tormenting neighbors with petty rules was suddenly confessing to something much bigger. fraud, corruption, maybe worse, and all of it was in that clipboard. Wax all... She gripped the knob now. Her breathing turned ragged. Greater than, I have to protect them. If the AG takes this, it's over. The AG's voice rose, calm but commanding. Greater than, sir, stand between her and the door. Do not let her leave. For her sake and yours, I moved quickly, planted myself in front of the door. Karen froze inches away. Her wild eyes locked on mine. For a second, I thought she might attack. Her hand twitched on the clipboard. Her jaw clenched. But instead, she whispered again, "You'll regret this. All of you will regret this." The phone buzzed faintly. Voices in the background. Law enforcement had arrived. The AG's voice softened, but carried finality. "Ma'am, it's over. Put down the documents. Cooperate. This is your last chance." Karen's lips trembled. Her eyes glistened with fury or tears. I couldn't tell which. She slowly lifted the clipboard, held it out in front of her like an offering. For 1 second, I thought she was going to hand it over. But then, her face twisted. With a sharp scream, she tried to slam it against the wall. Pages bent, papers fluttered loose. I lunged forward, caught her wrist, stopped her mid-swing. The clipboard fell. Papers exploded across the floor. Karen shrieked, "Greater than, no, no, you don't know what you've done." Her knees buckled as she dropped to the floor, clawing at the scattered pages. But it was too late. Dozens of sheets, signatures, bank transfers, secret agreements, all of it exposed in the open. The AG's voice came through steady. Greater than, "Sir, secure those documents immediately. Officers will arrive any second. Do not let her destroy them." I bent quickly, sweeping the papers into a pile. Karen fought me, scratching, pulling, trying to rip them apart. Her voice was nothing but screams now. "They'll come for me! Don't let them see! Don't let them see!" A heavy knock rattled the cabin door. Voices called out, "State police! Open up!" Karen froze. Her eyes widened. Her breathing stopped. She looked at the door, then back at the papers in my hands. And in that moment, the power she had always carried, the arrogance, the control, it vanished. All that was left was fear. The door swung open. Uniforms filled the cabin. Karen let out one last scream before they pulled her back. Wrists bound, her clipboard gone. She thrashed, shouted, begged. But it didn't matter anymore. The truth was out. The AG's voice spoke once more, calm but resolute. "Greater than, good work. Stay calm. The state will handle this from here." I stood frozen, papers still shaking in my hands. The evidence was everywhere. Every signature, every lie, every crime. And for the first time, Karen's reign of control was over. Too quiet. Karen's screams had faded into the night, swallowed by the sound of police radios outside. Her voice no longer filled the air with threats. Her power was gone. But the papers in my hands still shook, and I knew this wasn't over. An officer stepped forward. Heavy boots on wooden floorboards. He gestured. "Greater than, sir, hand those documents over. They're evidence now." I froze. Every instinct told me to let go. But part of me didn't want to. Because once those papers left my hands, would I ever know the full truth? I looked down at the scattered pages. Dozens of signatures, rows of numbers, large transfers moving through hidden accounts, and names, so many names, neighbors, HOA board members, people I'd spoken to at block parties, smiled at in driveways. Their names were here, tied to money that shouldn't exist. The AG's voice came through the phone again. "Greater than, sir. You've done your part. Now let the state take it from here." But the words didn't calm me. They only made the pit in my stomach grow deeper. because the question burned in my mind. What had Karen meant when she said, "All of us"? I bent down, my hands grazing over one page in particular. A list. Rows of signatures beneath a heading, Special Enforcement Agreement. My heart pounded as I read the names, not just Karen, not just the board, but residents, ordinary homeowners. They had all signed something binding, something secret. One officer noticed my hesitation. He reached for the stack. Greater than, "Sir, I need to take those now." But I couldn't move. The words on the page blurred as my eyes darted from line to line. And then, one name stopped me cold. It wasn't Karen's. It wasn't the treasurer's. It wasn't even someone from the HOA board. It was my neighbor, the man who waved at me every morning, the man who lent me tools last spring. His name was there, bold, clear, a signature under the agreement. The AG's voice sharpened. Greater than, "Sir, listen carefully. Do not speak those names aloud, not now. Hand the files to law enforcement. They are not safe in your possession. Not safe." The words echoed in my head. If these names were dangerous, if even neighbors were involved, then how deep did this conspiracy go? I finally let the officer take the stack. The weight of the clipboard left my hands, but the weight in my chest didn't lift. Karen might have been gone, but her shadow was still here, and the papers had only raised more questions. The officer tucked the files into an evidence bag, sealed it tight, and as the zipper closed, I realized I wasn't just a witness anymore. I was part of this story now, because I had seen too much. I scanned the faces in the crowd, neighbors, people I'd seen at HOA meetings, people who smiled too easily. How many of them were on that list? Then I saw him, the man whose name I had recognized. He stood near the edge of the crowd, arms crossed, expression unreadable. When our eyes met, he didn't wave, didn't smile, didn't even flinch. He just stared, cold, measured. And then he turned, slipping back into the shadows between the trees. A chill slid down my spine. He knew I had seen it. He knew his name was on that page. And if he knew, others might know too. An officer's radio crackled, muffled voices. One word stood out, greater than transport. Karen was being moved, driven into town for booking. I should have felt relief, but instead, I felt exposed. Because Karen wasn't the root of this. She was a symptom, a puppet. And whoever had been pulling the strings, they were still out here. The officer on the porch noticed my distant stare. Greater than, "You okay?" I forced a nod. Greater than, "Yeah, just tired." But inside, I was anything but calm. The crowd began to thin. One by one, neighbors drifted back to their homes. Porch lights flicked on across the lake. Doors closed. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes still followed me, watching, measuring, waiting. Finally, the last cruiser pulled away. The flashing lights disappeared down the road, and the night was silent again. Too silent. I stepped back into the cabin, closed the door, locked it, checked it twice. But even then, the silence pressed in, thick, unnatural. The phone on the table buzzed. A text message, unknown number, just 5 words. Greater than, "You shouldn't have seen it." My chest tightened. My hands shook as I read it again. No name, no signature, just the message. But the timing, the precision. It wasn't random. Someone knew I had read those files. I swallowed hard, forcing my hands to steady. But the phone buzzed again. Another message. Greater than, "This isn't over." I stared at the screen, frozen. Then, a soft sound outside the window. A branch snapping. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Moving past the cabin. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. The sound faded into the woods, and the silence returned. But I knew the truth. Karen might be in custody, the files might be in evidence, but the real threat, the real power behind the HOA was still out there, and they knew my name. The cabin walls felt thinner that night, like they couldn't keep the dark out, like they couldn't keep the danger away. I sat at the table, phone still in my hand. The two messages glowed on the screen, greater than, "You shouldn't have seen it." "This isn't over." Simple words, but they carried weight, too much weight. I thought of the list, the signatures, the money, the secret agreements. If neighbors were involved, if the HOA wasn't just a petty council of power-hungry board members, then what was it really? The silence pressed down on me. Every creak of the cabin felt louder, every gust of wind against the windows sharper. I checked the locks again, once, twice, 3 times. Still not enough. I tried to sleep, but the moment I closed my eyes, I saw Karen's face. That crooked smile in the back of the cruiser, those words, "If they see those files, it's over for all of us." All of us. Not just the board, not just her, everyone. Sometime past midnight, I woke to another sound. Not footsteps this time, not branches breaking, but paper, rustling, inside the cabin. I shot up, heart pounding. The table was empty, just the phone. But the sound came again, from the far corner of the room. Slow, deliberate, pages turning. My blood ran cold. The evidence bag was gone. The files had been taken away hours ago. So what was I hearing? I grabbed a flashlight and swung it toward the sound. Nothing. Just the empty chair in the corner, the shadows on the wall. But the sound. It was still there. A page, turning, whispering. I stepped closer, flashlight trembling in my hand. The chair was empty, but on the seat, a single sheet of paper. I froze. I hadn't seen it before, hadn't left it there. Slowly, I lifted it with shaking hands. At the top, in bold letters, Addendum Agreement. My eyes raced down the page, familiar names, but this time, another signature. Mine. I stumbled back, heart hammering in my chest. I had never signed anything like this, never agreed to anything. But there it was, my name, my handwriting, perfectly forged. The phone buzzed again. Another message. "Now you're part of it." I dropped the paper, hands shaking. The flashlight beam jittered across the walls. Someone had been inside. Someone had planted this. And now, the line between witness and suspect was gone. They were pulling me into the conspiracy, framing me. A floorboard creaked behind me, slow, measured. I turned. But the corner was empty. No one there, yet the smell of cigarette smoke lingered in the air. Fresh, strong. Someone had been here, watching, close enough to touch. I backed toward the window, every nerve on fire. The phone buzzed one last time. Greater than, it was never about Karen. The screen went dark, and for the first time I realized the true power behind the HOA hadn't even revealed itself yet. Karen was just the opening act, a distraction. The real players were still in the shadows, and now they had me. The night was heavy, still. The kind of quiet that pressed against your ears and made every little sound a threat. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think clearly, because the paper, the forged addendum with my name on it, someone had been inside, someone had planted it, and they were warning me. I paced the cabin. Flashlight still clutched in one hand, phone in the other. Every shadow seemed alive, every creak a predator stalking me. I checked the locks again and again. My mind raced back to Karen, to her crooked smile in the cruiser, to her words. If they see those files, it's over for all of us. But Karen was just a pawn. I realized it now. The real danger was still out there, watching. A knock came at the door, soft, polite. My heart stopped. Greater than, "Who is it?" I called, voice trembling. No answer, just a pause. Then another knock, firmer this time. I approached the door slowly, every step measured, every heartbeat loud. Through the peephole, nothing. Just the darkness of the porch. Yet I could feel it. Eyes on me, watching. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen drawer, not because I wanted to fight, but because I needed to feel control. I edged to the door, pulled it open slightly. Nothing. Then I noticed it. A small envelope on the porch floor, no stamp, no return address. Just my name scrawled in familiar handwriting. I picked it up with shaking hands. Inside, a single USB drive. My stomach twisted. I didn't know if I should plug it in. If I did, would I trigger something? Or would I finally see the truth? The threat was clear. The person behind this wanted me afraid, confused, cornered. I paced again, trying to make sense of it. Karen's files were now in evidence. The AG had copies, law enforcement involved, but this was different. The phone buzzed again. Another unknown number, greater than plug it in, see everything, or disappear. I froze. My hands trembled. The knife slipped slightly. I stared at the USB drive in my trembling hands. The envelope still warm from whoever had left it. My chest tight, my mind screaming. Plug it in, or ignore it. Every instinct told me not to. But the need to understand, to see the truth, overpowered fear. I moved to my laptop, hands shaking. Every shadow in the cabin seemed to move. Every creak sounded like footsteps creeping closer. I plugged it in. The screen blinked. Files loaded instantly. Folders upon folders, named innocuously community, records and agreements. But the content inside revealed far more than I expected. Financial records, payments, secret accounts, connections spanning not just the HOA, but other civic organizations, banks, and even local politicians, and all pointing toward Karen. Not just Karen, every name on that list, neighbors, officials, people I trusted, and now they were all implicated. A file caught my attention, titled Special Enforcement Operations Ongoing. I clicked. Videos, recordings of meetings, discussions about who could be controlled, who could be silenced, some footage clearly filmed without knowledge, hidden cameras. My stomach turned. I realized immediately Karen wasn't acting alone. She never had been. There were layers above her, people orchestrating every move, using fear and intimidation as tools. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the same unknown number. Greater than, you shouldn't be looking. Leave now or become the next file. I froze. The words cut deeper than any knife. They knew. They were watching. I glanced around the cabin, windows locked, doors secured. But they were still out there, closer than I realized. I decided to keep looking. I had to know. The videos showed Karen giving instructions, threatening residents, enforcing rules that weren't rules at all, punishing anyone who resisted. The agreements, the money, the votes, all manipulated to give her control, but someone higher orchestrated it all. A folder labeled Next Targets made my blood run cold, and at the top, my name. They were planning to frame me, make me the next scapegoat. My hands shook as I read the details, the precise steps they would take, the lies they would tell, the evidence they would manipulate. It was all there, planned meticulously, and I was in the center. I dropped the USB, backed away from the laptop, footsteps behind me. Slow, measured, approaching. I spun around. Empty room? Nothing, but the sound persisted. Closer, every step calculated, deliberate. I grabbed the knife again, heart hammering, every instinct screaming to run. Then the door handle rattled. Not a knock, not gentle, rattling, someone trying to enter. I held my breath, every nerve on fire, and then a voice, low, mocking, barely a whisper. "You shouldn't have opened it." The lights flickered. The cabin seemed to shrink around me. Shadows stretched across the walls. I realized I was completely alone. Except I wasn't. They were here, watching, waiting. I ran to the back door, tried the lock, secured. I turned to grab my phone, but the screen flashed another message. Greater than, "We're closer than you think." Panic surged, but determination followed. I couldn't run forever. I had to survive. I had to expose them. And in that moment, I knew the game had just begun. The HOA was no longer a neighborhood council. It was a machine, and I was the next piece on its board. The night felt heavier than ever. The cabin no longer felt safe. Every shadow seemed alive, twisting around corners, creeping across walls. I hadn't slept, hadn't eaten. All I had was fear and the files. The USB had revealed too much. Every name, every transaction, every plan Karen had carried out, and what she had never told anyone. And now, it was clear. Karen wasn't the problem. She was the surface, the face of a machine, the real power, still out there. A knock on the cabin door shattered the silence. Not timid, not hesitant, deliberate, commanding. My stomach sank. Every hair on my neck stood up. Greater than, "Who is it?" I called, voice shaking. No reply. Another knock, harder, more urgent. I backed away, hands trembling, knife ready, heart hammering, eyes scanning every corner. Through the peephole, a figure stood in the shadows. Tall, broad-shouldered, motionless, watching. I couldn't see a face, only the presence, the control. The door handle rattled violently, someone trying to force it open. I held my breath, pulled the knife tighter, and then the voice came, low, calm, impossible to ignore. "You shouldn't have uncovered the truth." The words froze me. I couldn't move. The shadows seemed to press closer, crowding the cabin. I knew in that instant that this was the mastermind. Not Karen, not the board, but the one pulling the strings, controlling the HOA, controlling everything. Another knock. Then the sound of boots on the porch. Heavy, deliberate. Each step echoing like a warning. I backed toward the window, looking for escape. Too late. The figure stepped into the light. Tall, dark, face obscured by the night. I saw the glint of a badge. Or was it a symbol? Impossible to tell. "Greater than, step aside," the voice said. "Now." I froze. Fear and adrenaline warred in my chest. Every instinct screamed to run, but I knew I couldn't. Not without answers. Not without understanding who was really behind this. The figure pushed the door open, smoothly, effortlessly, and stepped inside. The cabin seemed smaller, tighter. Every shadow now belonged to him. I took a step back, knife trembling in my hands. Who are you?" I asked, voice barely a whisper. "Greater than, I am the one Karen served," he said. "The one who controls the order behind the HOA. The one who ensures compliance." My blood ran cold. This wasn't a man who could be reasoned with. This wasn't someone who could be stopped. This was power incarnate. He walked slowly, deliberately, toward the table where the USB still rested. He didn't rush. Every movement measured, every step a statement. Greater than, do you understand now? He asked. You've seen too much, and yet you don't know the half of it. I gritted my teeth, fear burning through my veins, but something inside me, defiance, refused to break. Greater than, what do you want from me? I asked. Why involve me? He paused, tilted his head. A smirk I couldn't see but felt crept into his tone. Because little by little, everyone becomes a part of the machine. Witnesses, helpers, pawns. You've stumbled into a game you cannot leave. I swallowed hard. The weight of his words pressed down on me. Every heartbeat was a drum of warning, and yet I had a choice: run, fight, or survive to expose them. He stepped closer, shadow engulfing light, presence pressing in. Greater than, you could disappear tonight, he said. No one would ever know. But that is not the point. The point is control, compliance, fear. I realized. He wasn't threatening blindly. He wasn't angry. He was simply stating facts, and the facts were terrifying. He reached for the USB, slowly, carefully. I lunged instinctively, grabbed it. He didn't resist. Greater than interesting, he said. You have courage. Foolish but admirable. The knife in my hand felt heavy, the air between us electric. Every second stretched. I had to act. But how? He stepped back, voice softening, yet still commanding. Greater than, I will give you a choice, he said. Walk away and forget everything. Leave the town. Your life will be spared. Or stay and face what comes next. I stared at him, heart hammering, adrenaline screaming. The choice was clear, but impossible. I couldn't leave, not after seeing the files, not after knowing what Karen had done and what he had orchestrated. He turned to leave, paused at the door. Think carefully. No one else will warn you. And then he was gone. The cabin was silent again, heavy with tension, filled with questions. The USB still in my hands, the files still in my mind. And one fact clearer than ever. The HOA wasn't just a neighborhood council, it was a machine. And I was now at the center. The cabin no longer felt like shelter. It was a prison of silence and shadows. And in the middle of it, I sat, clutching the USB like it was the only thing tethering me to the truth. The man's words replayed in my head. Walk away, or stay, and face what comes next. There was no choice. I couldn't walk away, not after everything I'd seen. Not after realizing the HOA wasn't just a council. It was a machine, pulling strings far beyond this neighborhood. If I left, I'd live in fear forever. If I stayed, maybe I could end it. By dawn, I'd made my decision. The Attorney General needed the files, not just Karen's folder, all of it. But getting it to him meant stepping out of the shadows, exposing myself, inviting their retaliation. I packed the laptop, the USB, and the knife, locked the cabin, and walked out into the morning light. Every step felt heavier than the last. Every sound in the trees echoed like a warning. They were watching. I knew it. But I didn't care anymore. The town felt different when I returned. People moved quickly, avoided eye contact. Doors closed when I passed. News had already spread. Karen's arrest, the files in custody, the HOA scrambling to cover the cracks. But the machine was still alive, still breathing. And now, it wanted me gone. I made my way to the courthouse, where the Attorney General was expected to arrive. Police cars lined the street. Reporters gathered like vultures, eager for scraps of truth. But before I could reach the steps, a voice called from behind me. You should have chosen silence. I froze, the figure. The man from the cabin, standing across the street, watching, waiting. I pushed forward, ignoring him. The USB clutched tight in my pocket, but he followed, slow, steady. "Once those files go public, you'll burn with them," he said. "Do you really think you can expose us without consequence?" I turned, fire in my chest. Greater than, I don't care about consequence. I care about truth. The AG's car pulled up. Doors opened. Agents surrounded the steps. For the first time, I felt hope. But the man didn't move, didn't run, didn't hide. He smirked, like he already knew how this would end. I rushed forward, USB in hand. An agent stopped me, suspicious, cautious. I held it out. "The files," I said breathlessly. "Everything, names, accounts, operations, all of it." The Attorney General himself stepped forward, took the drive, met my eyes. And in that moment, I thought it was over. The machine was finished. Until I saw his face. The faintest smirk. The same kind of smirk I'd seen on Karen, on the man. My stomach dropped. The AG pocketed the USB, turned away, and walked into the courthouse without another word. I stood frozen, the world tilting, the truth crashing down on me like ice water. It wasn't over. It wasn't even close. The HOA, the machine, it was deeper than I thought, higher, stronger. It didn't just control my neighborhood, it controlled the law, the courts, the people meant to protect us. The man across the street met my eyes, nodded once, a subtle gesture, almost respect. Greater than, "Now you understand," he called. "There is no escape, only compliance." The reporters shouted questions, the cameras flashed, but none of them saw the truth. None of them realized the system they trusted was already compromised. And I stood there broken, but not defeated, because even in that moment, I knew one thing. The files were copies. The USB wasn't the only one. The truth was still out there, and as long as I was breathing, I would find a way to expose it. The man disappeared into the crowd. The AG vanished into the courthouse. The machine kept turning, but I walked away with a fire in my chest. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning.